Hi, everybody. This is Lauren Baker, host of the Search Engine Journal Show. Welcome to today's episode, sponsored by Paved. Today, I have Peçanha, Vitor Peçanha from Rock Content. Peçanha, you go by Peçanha, right? Not
Yes,
Vitor.
yes, yes,
Everyone calls you
perfect.
Peçanha.
Everybody calls me Peçanha. That's one of
Okay.
my last names.
All right. So I'm gonna call you that for the rest of the show today.
Okay.
Welcome to the SEJShow, Peçanha. We've done a lot with rock content in the past, so very happy to have you on. And how about if you take a couple of minutes just to introduce yourself, tell our audience about what you do, rock
Sure.
content, and overall like a little bit of a history because I'm sure people have heard of your brands and what your overall mission is.
Sure. Yes. Okay. So my name is Vitor Peçanha. I go by Peçanha. I'm co-founder of Rock Content. Rock Content is a company that I founded together with my two other co-founders 9.5 years ago. So almost 10 years ago. And our initial idea was basically to bring content marketing to Brazil. It was founded in Brazil. So our first business model was just having a marketplace where we connected brands to freelance writers. Right. Since then, we grew a lot. So over the last 9.5 years, we managed to become one of the largest digital marketing companies in Brazil. Right. We don't offer only the marketplace anymore. We now offer like services. We do have a few platforms and other softwares. In 2019, we acquired a company called Scribble
Mm.
that based out of the US and Canada. So with Scribble we now brought new products to our offering, Ion Visually. So Ion is a interactive experience platform to create quizzes, calculators, assessments, etc. Visually is a high-end marketplace for design work, right? That was 2019. That's when we started our US expansion, US and Canada expansion. So we started in Brazil. We expanded to Latin America organically. We're expanding to the US through acquisitions. And then earlier this year, we acquired a Boston-based company called Writer Access. It is a marketplace. So back to our roots in Brazil, that's
Hmm.
what we offer in Brazil. We decided to acquire a marketplace in the US so we could offer also a content marketplace in the US. So what's our purpose? Is to basically offer all of these tools plus services and a lot of training as well to help our customers create an online presence, a content first online presence. Right? So we have conversion, we have attraction, and the idea is to be like the best friend of the content marketer and help them run their strategy, right? With multiple offers. I would say like our mission is to make marketing better while having a positive impact in the world. That means that we really believe that a marketing, like content marketing in general, a marketing that generates value for the audience is a better way to do marketing. It's not only, hey, let's do quick campaigns or only PPC to grab the last click and try to just sell. Is educating or entertaining the audience, generating value for them, and naturally turning this audience into customers. So that's our mission. Like make marketing better while having a positive impact in the world. So the positive impact comes down to we have rock.org, that is like our social impact initiatives. So
Really?
a lot of, yeah, so we do support a lot of students, minorities. With education, we help them to get jobs, to be trained, and a lot of other initiatives as well.
Excellent. That sounds great. It sounds like you've run the gamut in terms of growth and initiatives and your mission. So that's fantastic. I have a question about Scribble Live. So you were operating in Brazil
Yes.
under Rock Content, and part of your growth strategy was acquisition. That was all. Was that also was that acquiring the technology, or also acquiring the book of business in terms of customers, maybe
Both.
staffing, everything else?
Yes, yes. I mean, the technology was really good, as of course that was part of the equation. But it was also really important for us to acquire the customers, the marketing presence, because that's how we started in the US. So
Yeah, they're both very well-known names, right? So Ion Interactive has been around for quite a long time.
yes,
And
like
then,
18 years, something like
yeah,
that. They started as an
exactly.
agency. Yes, a long,
Out of
long
Florida, I
time.
believe. And I could be wrong. And then Visually, early in, I think even before Visually had was a marketplace for designers, it started, I'm not sure if it started as this or not, but it was just like the gallery to highlight your own designs and infographics in, right?
Yeah, something like that. Yes.
Yeah.
So they were both acquired by Scribble Live,
Hmm.
a company based out of Toronto in
Yes.
Canada. And yes, Ion was based in Boca Raton, Florida. Yeah, so that's how we started, because if our idea was always to be like a global company. So we always thought about global expansion. And then we did the math and said, hey, it's better to start with an acquisition. It's going to save us a lot of time and money. Even if you think about an acquisition, the time it would take us to have like the first, I don't know, freelancers, even a small market share would take us a lot of effort and time. So that's how late 2019, that's when we enter the US and Canadian market. We operate in both markets.
And had you or your founders been involved with growth through acquisition previously, or was this a new
Yes,
endeavor for
first
you?
time. Yes, it was an
First time.
endeavor. Yeah, we learned a lot. Let's say
So,
we learned a lot. And when think about it, it was November 2019, right? So we had a plan. Say, okay, we need to go through this acquisition. So let's keep things a little separate for a while. Let's learn with them. Like when we acquired them, was to learn a lot with them, because we look at the business. That's a business we want to keep. So we need to learn from them. And then 3 months later, COVID hit. So imagine how hard that was, right?
I
So
know.
when COVID hit, everything changed. We need to move fast with a few plans. It was tough, but we like a lot of lessons learned. Now that we acquire Writer Access, our second international acquisition, everything is going way smoother. So yeah, it's like we're founders, so we learn as we go.
Yeah, I know. I know exactly what you mean. I do have a question about that though.
Yep.
In terms of growth through acquisition, in terms of acquiring companies, besides acquiring Scribble Live right before a worldwide pandemic,
Pandemic, yes.
um, um, uh, are there any other learnings or recommendations that you would give any other businesses when they're looking to acquire a book of business, or anything that you would do differently, or anything that you would definitely recommend on that end based upon your experience in terms of what you
Okay.
can share?
So yeah, based on what I can share and what I've learned, and we were forced into a much faster integration than we wanted because of COVID. So a lot of lessons learned, right? It is, if you acquire a company, we're not acquiring only their revenue, and you're not acquiring only their market share. You're acquiring their culture, their team. So we have to take that into account. That's really, really important. And when we first acquired Scribble, there was a major cultural difference between Brazilians and like Canadians and Americans.
Really?
So there is, yes. It is interesting. I had to read I read books about it so I could be better prepared. But it's basically it is, it's like Americans, they're very like how they say, they're not context oriented, so they're pretty straightforward. What I like a lot. So you go there and say, hey, here's what needs to be done. Here's step by step what needs to be done, and so there's no margin for error. So a lot of efficiency. So that's what I forgot the name of the book. Is the culture code or the culture map? I think it's the culture
Oh,
map.
look it up.
Yeah, and so like that's low context, right? So you don't like all of the everything that you after a meeting, everything that you do is very well uh, documented, pretty straightforward. Cultures like Brazil and India is very high context. You say, hey, let's do this. They say, okay, we're doing this. And then that's it. You don't go, okay, what's the next step? What's the step by step? How that goes? So you need
So
to
there's no plan.
There is a plan. There is a plan, but it's not very detailed or very in people's. There's a lot on people's mind, and people understand that it works, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't be where we are. But when you're in a meeting or a different situation, you got to take that into account. Other learning is you shouldn't rush with integration. So it's a really good practice to say, hey, keep the founder or keep one of the senior members of the acquired company as, for example, the general manager for that company separately for a while, and then bring someone from your team to be part of that for that structure to understand, okay, how does that acquired company operate, right? Because we acquired this company because we saw something good, some positive in it. So you cannot come in and say, hey, let's do everything our way. Otherwise, you're wasting an asset that we just acquired. So it's better to do that slowly and then look at, okay, what should we integrate first? Usually it is, okay, it's finance, HR, things are not customer facing. And then later say, okay, how do we integrate product? How do we integrate sales? But we decided that for Rider Access this year, we would not be integrating a lot of customer facing roles and teams this year. It would take us at least 1 year to integrate everything. So we've learned, and we're learning a lot from them. So that's good. Look at the acquired company not as as an inferior company, or okay, you're smaller, I'm the big guy. It's quite the opposite actually. You look at them and say, hey, I'm acquiring you because I see value in you. And if I come here and start just imposing rules, I'm destroying part of that value that I just saw on that acquired company. So we're learning a lot from Rider Access. We learned a lot from Scribble Live, right? But now that we don't have a second pandemic this year, thank God, right? So we could do things on a proper pace, right? There's no rush with that integration.
I like that approach because it makes you more of a holding company for the first year or so while you can make small tweaks and everything else and then integration. Also,
Exactly.
I've been through some acquisitions, but more so mergers. And what happens too is that when you change too much too fast, sometimes you don't take into account the customer service component or the customer confusion component of everything, right? Suddenly
Yes.
you have 100 customers asking, well, what's next? What's going on? How come this? How come that? And then so like having some sort of consistency while changing down the road makes a lot more sense to me and sounds like something that you really
Yeah.
have figured out. So that's good to know.
Yeah. You don't want to create friction with the customers.
Yes.
They will feel they will feel some level of uncertainty, right? I don't know if you saw, like, for example, Adobe just acquired Figma, $20 billion deals.
I know, right?
And then Figma has a open source competitor from Spain that saw their signups and the customers increase at like 500-600% because people are not comfortable with Figma being part of Adobe. So you got to be very careful with the messaging and how you show that, hey, we're not gonna ruin what we have now. We're not gonna change anything. So yeah, it has to be a careful approach.
Yeah, especially with Figma almost being the anti-Adobe for a while, and then
Exactly.
I deal with that with EchoSign. We still use EchoSign, but I can never figure out how to log in because Adobe user experience is so terrible when you go to the website. So just like their analytics and everything else. So let's talk a little bit about content. But I really enjoyed reviewing that with you. So just as a recap, Rock Content is the brands underneath Rock Content are Ion Interactive, Visually, Writer Access, and anything I'm missing? Stage,
yes, is our hosting platform, and Studio. There's a content marketing platform that we're launching we still haven't launched that one in the US. So it's coming. It's for managing teams and processes.
Got you. So Google rolled out an update. Well, they rolled out like 3 updates in a row with a lot of overlap. Um, the helpful content update, right?
Yep.
So, um, very seldom do you hear the word content associated with a Google update. Maybe Panda and Penguin to a degree, but this is straight up like content. The word content is in the name of the update. How helpful was the helpful content update to you? And also, I think where do you see any? Have you noticed any changes from that update? And how important do you see content marketing now coming into play with Q4 and planning for 2023?
Okay. So to be honest, on our blogs, we didn't see any impact after the helpful content update. Right. So and then it just came with the September update, and so the September update that just finished, I think like yesterday or today, I don't know, when they say, hey, the rollout is done, we actually saw an increase in traffic, especially in the US.
Nice.
So yeah, my opinion about the helpful content update is it's weird that they gave this name. Usually it would be the August update, and it scared a lot of people. If people were like, oh my God, what's gonna happen? But I mean, Google has been telling us since forever that hey, you gotta create helpful content. Right. So I think that was like a branded just to scare people or send a message and tell people, hey, remember the basics.
Right.
Right. So it hasn't affected us. Our blogs, they bring around 7 million sessions a month. So in general, it didn't affect us negatively, but also we didn't grow a lot. Only in September could be a reflex of the helpful content update. We started to see some growth, right? So what does it tell us is, I mean, that's something that we've learned a long time ago. SEO it's useful content for the right persona at the right moment, and you got to be valuable, and then you have all the initiatives and the tactics and the things that you got to do to be valuable. It is good content and a good experience, right? So we always play by that book. I never liked, for example, growth tactics or hacks. I don't like the word hack a lot. And I know it works, but it's always a short-term thing. So we never did like SEO hacks, for example. We always meant, because SEO is not a short-term thing. So, and we grew like as a company, for example, in Brazil. I spent some money on PPC until 2014, and then since then my budget on paid media is zero for the Brazilian audience since 2014. So yeah, since late 2014, January 2015. So it's something that we're really good at, and one thing I'm proud of, like we never chase like the latest hack like I used to do a long time ago. Like, I used to do it. I'm not proud of it. Remember, like when demand media was a thing, the content farm, the content farm. Yeah,
I remember demand media.
Yeah, so they imploded after Panda, but that's one thing that we learned, and that actually led us to create the company. I think like the Panda update was one of the events that was responsible for us creating rock content, because we looked at it, say, hey, people will need high quality content, right? High quality content is looking at what people want, their intent, and giving the best answer. So as long as you do this, I don't focus a lot on technical stuff. I have a lot of friends who are like very technical oriented when it comes to SEO. I don't look at it that much, and it kind of works and keeps growing. And I wasn't impacted at all. I saw a lot of people on Twitter afraid, a lot of people kind of trying to guess what would happen. And then after the helpful update rollout, no one that I saw actually had like a major impact to the point where, hey, I lost my business, or I had like a severe drop in traffic. So I think it was more of the name. I think like scare was more like scare tactic by Google than anything else. That was my analysis in hindsight.
Yeah, I think so too. Same scenario. Didn't really see much drop. Saw some nice gains, but then also there was helpful content went in the core, which went into product review. And I always actually see more content movement when there's a product review update, because I think that has a lot more to do with EAT than the helpful content update did. Like expertise, authority, business, trust, worthiness. It's all within the all within the product review update paperwork, I guess. And helpful content, really not so much. I feel like helpful content was more so targeting, if anything, just to your point, scare tactic. But hey, maybe I should not use AI to write this content, or hey,
Oh
maybe I
yeah,
should
you
not use
have.
AI to write thousands and thousands and thousands of pages. And the one thing that I have noticed, it stopped probably in the past 6 months, is I have less people asking me about why should we pay you to write content when we can just get AI to write it. And it's like, well,
Exactly,
not after the helpful content update.
and that's true. Google was explicit about it, right? Because people are creating thousands of AI pages and just publishing them. They're not. I mean,
It's spam.
it's spam, exactly.
Yeah.
Unless it's a very specific use cases, but you overall for SEO, it's spam, right? I think AI is really good for some levels of like product descriptions, weather forecasts, very limited use cases, stock exchange, stock analysis,
Mm-hmm.
But for SEO, where with we need to give like meaningful value, and right now we need to like really short pieces of content. They don't rank anymore. Most of them, Google is basically not because of the size, but because if it's a quick answer to a question, Google already answers that on the SERP. Yeah, so I think that they targeted AI created content, but I don't know, maybe I don't hang out with the AI people that much because I haven't heard much.
I just see AI being useful in terms of planning a little bit, though, with some of the
No,
different
no,
tools out there. Yeah, but not
I
necessarily
agree.
the finished product.
Oh no, I agree that AI will play like a massive role when it comes, for example, to planning, to keyword research, to content briefings.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you think about it, that's like SEO. How do you understand if people are interested in a topic? You do keyword research, right? So when you look at keyword research, say, hey, I have this XYZ amount of people that are telling me what they want to hear about, what they want to learn about based on data. So I think AI would be pretty good to help with that. So doing cluster analysis and say, hey, if you wanted to write a blog post about this, here's a few topics that it should cover. But then you will always need the human writer, because there are a few things that you need a human writer, like the interpretation that you're going to need a human writer, the way you write, the style, how you connect with the persona, all of that. I'm not saying always need, because always like the forever is a very long time period, but at least for a few years, I see AI being a very good assistant to content
Yes,
creators.
which it should be. I
Exactly,
agree.
like every other tool, right? So it's going to be a really good assistant.
So we did have a question that comes in, and just as a reminder for anyone that's currently viewing on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, etc., YouTube, you can ask questions in the comment area. So a question that came in from Ekta. Ekta asks, do let me know how to start understanding content and digital marketing a little bit better. Currently, Ekta works in outreach and wants to understand how they can start working on writing and making SEO content more optimized from an outreach perspective. So I think here we're talking about maybe content that can be contributed to third-party sites such as guest blogging or PR or whatever it may be, bylines, etc. How important is content planning for third-party content contributions, outreach initiatives? Is it as important as the content on your own site?
I think that each one plays a different role.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, you have to think about the journey. You have to think about the customer journey, and I like to say, ideally, you have to always take people to your own media, your own domains, So if you think about outreach, and if I understood correctly, it is like publishing content on different websites, or maybe using content for PR that connects with SEO. That's a strategy that I really like. So that's a distribution. That's where you will be found. That's where people will learn about you. And if it ranks for SEO, it's great. And then you're gonna have and talk about EAT. You're gonna be the author. So and maybe it's connected to your brand. So all of that is okay. People will see who you are. You're gonna use a third party website as distribution. But in the end, if you think about the journey, the ideal journey is, hey, imagine that they're reading something about content marketing that I wrote for Search Engine Journal. The ideal journey is, hey, I like what this guy says. I like his opinion. Or he introduced me to a new concept that I hadn't thought of. Let me Google that.
Yep.
And ideally, you should end up on my website. And from there, I will try to, of course, with great content, like teach you new stuff, but also try to make you sign up for my newsletter or listen to a podcast episode about the same topic. So you can sign up, subscribe to my podcast. So I think it is important because it is distribution, especially when you're starting. You have people don't know you, so you need to use third-party distribution. But it is a journey. So I don't. Each one has a different purpose. So right now, for example, I'm really well established with my blogs. So most of the content I create, especially in Latin America, is for my own blogs. I don't need outreach that much. But when I talk about when I'm expanding to different countries, especially when it started in the US, I had to do more outreach. But at the same time, outreach, think about people will be exposed to my brand. Click, if there are links, click on the link. Of course, I'm always trying to get my backlinks. But the content on my own website that should rank well, it is the journey, the next step in the journey. This person might Google my brand, which is the best case scenario, say, hey, I want to see what this guy is all about, but I might introduce a new concept. And this person might Google that new concept. So it's not a branded search, but if I'm doing well in search on Google for that search, they will see the SERP. I might not be the first one, but if they recognize my brand, so next step of the journey. Then they're on my blog, and it's on my domain, so it's easier for me because I have more control to say, okay, let's try to turn them into newsletter subscribers, into the next step of that engagement that I want from my audience by providing valuable content.
Got you. I love that approach because, first of all, I think if you are doing outreach, especially to a site that should rank, right? So let's just use SEJ as an example.
Yeah.
You build a relationship with the SEJ team, our editorial, like, okay, let's get Peçanha writing on the site, right? This sounds great. So you have the chance then to contribute an article on SEJ. That article is going to rank whatever you're targeting. It's going to rank page 1. We'll see if we rank above the fold or not. But if you introduce a concept, first of all, that's your first impression as well, right? That's the top of the funnel in the consumer journey is like, boom, they read this piece by Peçanha on SEJ. It's amazing. Let me learn that more, right? So on top of that, and if I could paraphrase what you just were saying, introducing a concept. And I think sometimes we forget as marketers that we can invent new concepts, right? So I can call something like, dedicated content, whatever it may be, dedicated performance content initiative. And everyone's like, oh, what's that? So then they go to Google, like dedicated performance content.
Yeah.
And they see the SEJ article, they see the rock content site, they see a blog post that you did, they see everything going back to you. Right. So we do have the power now to invent new terminology, which we've always had.
Yeah.
And on top of that, you're introducing a topic that you're owning the topic. So if in addition to SEJ, I mean, obviously you don't want to, if you're contributing to SEJ, Peçanha, you don't want to contribute to any of our SEO competitors, right? Like search engine watch or something. But you could probably go to sites like Practical E-commerce and other sites like
Or I don't
that.
know, HubSpot. Yes, I
Yeah, there
do
you go.
partner
HubSpot,
with HubSpot.
get a piece in
Yeah.
there. So like you can basically own the conversation by doing so, right? So step one of the consumer journey is the introduction, right? Whether it's on your own blog or a blog that you've contributed to. Step two is you're introducing not only yourself and your company, but maybe a concept, and they go and they search for your company, or they go and they search for your concept or your name, and they find information about you. And then they get back into, maybe they find like the HubSpot post, and then it's instant social proof and verification that you know what you're talking about and that you guys do a great job of what you say you're going to do, right? Then they get that, all those different, wow, my screen just changed. All of the different arms are like tentacles that bring someone back into the hub, which is your
Yep.
own site, right? So I think that this concept is very overlooked when it comes to outreach, because the goals of outreach are not just to get a link, but they're also to get people clicking over to your site and clicking over and getting traffic and everything else. So, and introduction to concepts. So I love that approach. I love that approach quite a
Yeah,
bit.
that's what we're quite obsessed with links. Of course, links are important,
Hmm.
but I mean, imagine when you're featured on a newspaper, online newspaper or magazine. Usually, they don't give you links, backlinks, right? Or it's
No.
a no follow, but they don't. Right? But would you say, hey, I don't want to be featured by Forbes because they don't give me a backlink? That's would be a terrible mistake, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
exactly. So that's the idea. So okay, the person Forbes, a major publisher. So the person goes there and say, hey, there's this company called Rock Content. Even if there isn't a new concept, I like the idea of new concept. But if it's just like Rock Content and this person's a marketer, and then they were going to go into Google and look for something unrelated. So, for example, we're ranking first right now for affordable SEO services. So, this person who read Forbes never clicked, went his way to do and live his life, and someday say, "Hey, I want affordable SEO services," and then they go into Google, search for that, and I'm first. I could be second, I could be third. But there's a huge difference when they look at it and say, hey, I've seen these people before. Somewhere. That's what brand like recognition is all about, right? Brand recall. And there's like a higher chance for them to click on a brand that they know. Right? So when you talk about outreach, you have to think about all of this. Right? So if you create a new concept, digital PR, like people who are good at digital PR, they do that really well. So they not only create a concept, set up everything to rank for it, but then go with like PR and try to say, hey, here's a new concept for you. And then they try to push that into magazines. Of course, it has to be interesting. It has, but if it goes out in a magazine, like whenever you see something new, right? Quiet quitting. I don't know, if someone made that up, could be a PR action, like a PR campaign from someone, right? And you should be ready to get that traffic. So yes, I think the important thing here is to broaden your scope and think about content and SEO, not only from like the extremely limited perspective of if there is no link, there is no value, what's the point? You got to think like I'm building an online presence and online reputation. And if I can make people go to my website because I managed to introduce a new concept, that's a really great strategy. But you cannot create a new concept every week. So that's also something I need to think about. But that's basically what I did in Brazil for content marketing. It's not a new concept. It wasn't a new concept in the US in 2013. But not a lot of people were talking about content marketing in Brazil when I started. We have a few players, but I managed to dominate that market because I pushed for that. I created blog posts for that. I go on stage and speak about it. I created an online course about it that made a huge difference. So that's I think that's the secret, not so secret, but I think that's the right way to think about it. You need SEO, you think about links, all the technical side of things, all the SEO good best practice, yes. But if you're only limited to that, you'll be missing a lot of opportunities. And outreach is a great example. Right?
Yeah.
You can treat it in multiple different ways that can benefit your company.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Speaking of quiet quitting, I think the concept of quiet quitting has been around forever, but it was just invented by human resource attorneys so they can find a reason not to give severance packages or pay unemployment to people that they're currently laying off.
That makes a lot of sense, right? Because then the entire fault is on the employee.
Yeah, they're like, oh,
right?
you're a quiet quitter. You didn't do anything for 3 months. Well, people have done that in corporate, at least in corporate America, forever. That's go and hide within a company somewhere.
Yeah, maybe so. Yeah, maybe that's the entire idea behind quiet quitting. It's a nice theory.
In addition to quiet quitting, you also use the word brand a couple times. So we had talked about this before the show, and I wanted to discuss it a little bit with you. SEO has a very direct response marketing mindset, right?
Mm-hmm.
I did this, therefore I should get this in return. What is the KPI? What is the return on investment? What is the revenue growth, et cetera, as tracked via analytics or backend or whatever it may be. But branding is something that I've heard people say that impressions in Google are branding. I've heard people say that ad served but not clicked is branding.
It's branding, okay.
But in content, right? And you brought this up a little bit with PR. If you get an article in the New York Times or Forbes and it discusses your brand but it doesn't link to you, I think a link builder or an outreach person might be upset. Like, oh, I didn't get the link. Oh, too bad.
Yep.
But that's a win. It's a branded win, right? So,
mm-hmm.
What's the role of branding and content marketing, and how can we as SEOs or content marketers get report and identify more branding wins and increases in brand in the same fashion that we do a lot of those like direct response KPI metrics that we're always looking at?
So yeah, branding is a really hard thing to measure. It is something that for the last, I would say 15 years was like the ugly duckling in the marketing, in the communication marketing, because hey, you can't measure that, so it definitely doesn't have any value, right? But there's been a shift recently, especially with all the privacy changes that we're seeing. So iOS 14, the end of third-party cookies that, well, Google and Chrome keep pushing, but will happen at some point. iOS 15 and GDPR and other laws, right? So you see that all that promise that we had, that, hey, data will solve everything because you have so much data that you can hyper-target people and you can just like show them exactly what they want, that will change, right? That's one problem. So when you think about it, we're going to have like not as much data as we used to have before. So what's left? Right. First, PPC, none of this is going away, right? But it will change. The cost per click is higher. We're going to have to find more creative solutions. That's one. Second one is when it's another topic, it is reach, right? When you talk about social media platforms, organic reach has been declining since forever and will keep declining. So a lot of companies 10 years ago relied on social for everything. Say, hey, I have 1 million Facebook likes. And no one says that anymore, not even Facebook. The follower count is like smaller by 1 pixel every 10 days, apparently. One day it's just going to disappear. But even Google, right? The amount of zero-click searches that we have on Google, it's making an impact on a lot of companies, on a lot of businesses. So why do I like to talk about brand and content experience in general? Because what's branding? Very simplified. It's when you proactively and intentionally look at how we're going to position ourselves in the market and how you want to be remembered. That means in terms of emotions, in terms of visuals. So it's visual consistency, it's messaging consistency, simplifying branding by a lot, right? But that's really important, and your naming, etc. But that's really important because when you talk about SEO, we don't talk about, hey, how is that aligned with our branding guidelines? Not always, right?
Right.
So when you think about content, the way you have to reach people, and the entire distribution and entire online presence. What you're building on people's mind is a brand. So when someone finds something that they really like, and if you're the one, it's on your website, your logo is over there, that's a positive brand engagement, right? So you cannot overlook that.
No.
And I don't know, when someone subscribes to your podcast, why has Spotify invested, I don't know, hundreds of millions of dollars in podcasts? Because when someone decides to, hey, I'm going to subscribe to a brand's podcast, what is this person telling us? And you don't have data about this person. You don't know their email, so you cannot send, you don't know anything. But one person that actively said, I want to listen what this brand and this person have to tell me. And I want to be informed every time there's a new episode.
Yep.
And they're going to listen to you for 40 minutes. I mean,
Hopefully.
Hopefully, yes. But 20 minutes, whatever. It's extremely relevant. That's why HubSpot is has created a podcast network, right? Drift has, I don't know, 4 or 5 podcasts. So all of that we don't proper measure. We have some indicators, podcast subscribers, right, etc. All of that has to become a single plan. SEO has a part in it, right? Speaking of like bigger companies, when you do a TV ad, a TV campaign, people will go to Google, right? That's their journey. And if you're not ready, you're going to miss a lot of value that you could have captured, right? There's one story that I like to tell is we have like the biggest beer company in the world is from Brazil.
Oh, which one?
InBev. InBev.
Oh,
they're the owners of Budweiser, and they're
Mhm.
from Brazil. They have a brand here in Brazil. It's called Brahma. It's a beer brand.
Yeah.
It's Skol. It's a Brazilian beer.
Skol?
And then Skol, yeah.
Yeah, I know Skol. Kaiser, Skol,
Yeah,
and Brahma, right?
Exactly. So you lived in Brazil, you know how it goes. So it's one of the most famous brands in Brazil, one of the top 3 beer brands in Brazil. And then they launched Skol Hops. So a little more like bitter, hoppy, right? And then they launched a big campaign, millions and billions of dollars. And a friend of mine has a blog about beer. He loves beer, small blog. But he had an article. He works at Rock, so he's good at SEO. He has an article about hops. What the hell? What are hops? Right. So what he says is, as soon as this entire campaign, this huge market push goes live, right? Ambev, one of the biggest companies in the world, didn't think about SEO. So my friend was ranking above Ambev for the word hops. What are hops, etc. So he saw this massive spike in traffic. That was really good for him, but it shows how without proper planning, without capturing the entire journey, like you're going to miss opportunities. Ambev, multi-billion, multinational company, missed an opportunity that a blog run by 2 guys captured. So think about it, and this entire campaign is about brand, right? Brand and product. So it was captured on SEO. So when you think about branding, it is in content marketing. It is, we have to expand the way we see it. It's not only demand generation, last click, and exact attribution. You're building like a huge asset, right? And when people are looking for your brand, you win the game, right? Because of course, we're always going to have like fewer people looking for the brand than the overall top of the funnel content, but you have to guide them there. So for me, one of my best successes in Brazil is our Rock University that we will expand into the US. 500,000 students.
Oh, wow.
170,000 of them have some sort of certification. So can I attribute how every single student became a Rock content customer? I can't. It's a different journey. But can I say that, for example, it is having a positive impact? I can. I have more than 20,000 Rock content branded searches in Brazil right now. and an extra 24,000 of Rock University and online rock courses in Brazil. That's all the brand, right? So, and that came because I was creating useful content together with my SEO that will take people to the Rock University, so distribution. So everything is connected. Everything is a huge journey. And you have to remember that. So,
Yeah.
but hi, Peçanha, we can't measure that. Well, not directly. We need to measure. We need to keep measuring what can be measured. Of course, I'm not an anarchist that says, "Hey, you know what? Forget about data." No, do PPC, do attribution, do all of that. But you're gonna see correlation when you start having more visibility, even in channels where you can't directly capture leads, or for example, the source, YouTube, TV, podcast, right? So that makes a lot of sense. You can do some tests and measuring, right? Every time you have great visibility, you have a tendency to have a more like increase in branded searches, right? So that's a strong correlation that cannot be ignored. There's this guy, it's called Lebinet. I don't know if you know him.
No.
So he's a very famous marketing guy and communications guy that he came up with this metric called share of search. So historically, you have something called share of voice. Before the internet, it is basically the amount of ad dollars invested by each company on a certain category determines its market share. Now, the study he did is, can we apply the same rule on search? So you go into a keyword research tool like SEMrush and say, okay, if I compare rock content with all my competitors and say, in terms of branded searches, my brand searches versus their branded searches, and as a whole, we say I have 20% of this pie, my competitor has 10% of this pie, it correlates really well with market share. That's pretty interesting. He did an analysis with a few companies and say when searches for a certain brand go up, the market share go up. So it is people telling you that, hey, I've seen your brand. I know who you are. I'm interested in seeing that. Right? That's pretty interesting. So we're looking for new metrics, new ways to correlate all of that. But to understand all of that, the thing about content marketing right now, it's not as simple as it was before, because we even confused content and inbound a few years ago. Like inbound is straightforward traffic to lead to customer, right? HubSpot call is a flywheel right now, but in the end, it's traffic to customer. And now it's much broader than this. It's your podcast, it's all the touch points, the ones that you can't measure, but you will need to try to correlate. It's measuring your branded searches to see how you're doing in a certain market. So content marketing today, it's kind of like not a step back, but it's going back to our roots and say, hey, you need to generate value, you need to be viewed, you need to be recognized. That's brand awareness. So people will remember you, that brand recall, and they have positive perceptions of your brand. That's emotion, right? But now instead of just saying, hey, here's a lot of ads, commercial breaks, no, you're going to build all of this by attracting people with awesome content. So it's the same rules as before with the new channels, new formats, and now also new ways of measuring them. So it's a big thing now, and we're learning how to do it. Right? It's a very exciting moment. I really like the privacy issues because it's good for those who know that the best marketing is the one where you create valuable content. Right?
Agreed. So speaking of valuable content, I just dropped a video of Lebinet on share of search from YouTube.
Yep.
If anyone's watching right now, check it out. I'm going to watch it right after this episode.
Yeah, it's a great reference. Yes.
And then also, we're almost at the hour mark. Where can folks find? Oh, you're from Minas. You're from Minas Gerais originally.
Yes, originally yes. Belo Horizonte. not a famous city, right? You know that we became famous when Brazil lost to Germany 7-1 in the World Cup. That was in Minas. Yes, was in my city. Not a good day.
Not a good day. No, not a good day.
Yeah.
I can imagine. So where can people find you online?
Okay, so we're pretty easy to find. You can look for the company, it's Rock Content. So branded search, just Google it. We have our blog in English, Spanish, and Portuguese. I'm easy to find. I'm at Peçanha, like my last name, as you can see it without the tail in the C, on every social network except.
Yeah, I'm noticing this.
Yeah, except TikTok because I was too late to get into TikTok.
Oh no.
But yes, on Twitter, etc. So if you want to ask me anything, just find me on any social network. I'm not that active as active as I should be, but I'm also interacting with people there. And if you want to learn more about Rock Content, it's rockcontent.com. There you see our products, what we offer, and hopefully a lot of useful content for you. We have podcast as well and a webinar series called the Jam Sessions. A lot of good interviews. We're doing multiple different types of content that I think and I work for them to be valuable to everyone. Sorry, excellent. Not everyone. The audience that's interested in marketing.
Yes, the audience.
That's a very important. That's a very important distinction. You cannot try to please everyone.
Can't be everything to everybody, right?
Exactly.
So, I went ahead and I dropped your LinkedIn in here, Twitter, as well as a link to Rock Content and the Rock Content blog. It's very cool to see a company like Rock Content really practice what you preach in terms of not only guesting on podcasts and creating content, but also creating content within your own site, within your own brand, everything else. So that's really cool to see. We did have a question that came in earlier, and we have a couple minutes left. So
yes.
I wanted to run this past you. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, so Danya asks, what's going to be the new thing in 2023 to add to articles or add to blog posts for optimization? 2022 was all about internal linking, header tags. She's getting overwhelmed with title tags and all of that stuff. What do you see being the big thing for 2023 for people to prepare when really putting together the written content right now?
For SEO specifically?
Yeah, it sounds like it's for SEO purposes.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the 2022 things, they've been forever. So they're not 2022 things. They are 21st century things, right? Like the titles, the links, etc. That won't change much. I mean, if you're not paying attention to EAT right now, you should. It's been a big topic this year, and it's going to become more and more relevant. Schema markup, that's a technical thing that I believe is really important. But it's always going to be about understanding your audience and providing a good experience. That won't change. So I don't think there's going to be like the 2023 big trend. Right? Gotcha. We saw that people talk a lot about AI, but we saw how that turned out.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but that's my boring but truthful answer to this question.
Cool. Tá bom, então. Foi muito legal falar com você for coisas de content marketing. Oh man, I just forgot what I was going to say. So it was really cool to talk to you today about content marketing. It was a great 53 minutes for all of you that are listening. We are going to be doing a recap on the Search Engine Journal site with a lot of the great concepts, background, and information that we talked about today with Peçanha. It's really been a pleasure speaking to you and then catching up with you a little bit about Brazil. You brought back some good memories and some bad memories. I was locked in the Sambadrome in Rio de Janeiro for like 5 hours watching Carnival once. All we had was Skol beer and Carl's. It wasn't Carl's Jr. It was like Carl's cheeseburgers to eat, and it was terrible because that's the last thing you want to eat when you're in Rio de Janeiro is cheeseburgers, right? So
that's true. Yes, I mean at least I have a story to tell.
yeah, at least I have a story. being stuck in the Sambodrome forever eating cheeseburgers. But it was really a pleasure to meet you, to catch up and to learn. Especially on the growth through acquisition component, I don't think we talk a lot about like business growth and things like that on the show. And the fact that you've identified that strategy for growth and breaking into new markets is really interesting to me. I'm going to check out the culture map and some of the other resources that you brought up. Along with share of search, the share of search concept as well. So I think we had a chance to cover quite a bit today, and we'll be following up on that on SEJ as well. It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure. I hope you all enjoyed it, and thanks for inviting me, man.
Absolutely. So thank you for your time, Peçanha. Thank you to the Rock Content team for working with SEJ for so long. Even back in the Scribble Live days, what was it? The name before, it was Link something out of the UK before Scribble Live. This is a long time ago, but it's really been a pleasure catching up with you. And thank you for all of you that have listened to the show or watched the show, either on audio or visual. It's been a pleasure, and we'll be back next week. So, falou, Manuve. I'll talk to you soon.
Até mais. Tchau.
Okay, falou, rapaz. See you.
Thank you for joining us this week on the Search Engine Journal Show. If you liked this episode, subscribe to our channel for so much more and click the notification bell so you don't